Sports Page Summer of Football. We're talking to college football coaches around the country and previewing the 2012 season. We go to the ACC and bring in someone that has had a tremendous amount of success at Wake, even recruited this area as well. The head football coach at Wake Forest for the Demon Deacons, Jim Grobe, joins us here on the new Sentinel Sports Page. Hey, Coach Grobe, Vince Ferrara and Jesse Smithey. How you doing, Coach?
I think we're doing okay, I think.
You think so?
It's hard to tell this early in the season, honestly.
What have you seen from your guys so far in camp?
Well, good energy. We got a good work ethic. We got a great group of kids, good character kids that like to play, and so we've gotten a lot of work. We've got a unique situation. We've got all of our scholarship kids are in second session summer school, and we don't end until Saturday. We started Monday night, so we have to practice each night, and the kids are in school during the day and study, home tutoring, and all that kind of stuff. So we don't get practice started till almost 8 o'clock at night, and by the time we get through meetings and whatnot. So we've got to be really careful. We've got to try to get going with football, but we've got to make sure they all pass their classes too.
Do you find that the kids are more engaged in practice at nighttime? Because I know Derek Dooley here, he's had it in the afternoon, he's had it in the morning, trying to find the right time of day where his players are really going to be focused on nothing other than football.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think we get a little bit of extra zip, I think, when we go at night. The kids like being under the lights, and it's a little bit cooler, and we get just a little bit more enthusiasm, I think. The problem is, a lot of times we'll be playing 3 or 4 games in 90-plus degree weather in September. If you're playing a noon kick or a 3:30 kick, you could get some really hot weather. So I think you got to balance it out a little bit. We try to do a little bit of both. Got to be really careful when you're going in the afternoon with dehydration, all the problems that come with it. But I think if you don't get ready for it, it's hard to play in it in September.
We're visiting with Jim Grobe, head football coach at Wake Forest for the Demon Deacons, 6-7 a year ago, 5-3 in the ACC. And Coach, you've had success in recruiting here, especially from Farragut High School. You have one player that from Tennessee on your roster right now, and freshman Tyler Hayworth from Dobbins Bennett up in Kingsport. But talk about recruiting Tennessee and East Tennessee and what you're seeing as far as prospects in this area.
Well, what we find is we find schools that have good academics, and that's a key for Wake Forest. When we recruit, we start with character. We want a good kid first and foremost, and then we've got to find a kid that can graduate from Wake Forest. And he doesn't have to be the top kid in the class, but he's got to be a real college-bound kid, and we find that, in a lot of different places. But basically, we're trying to go back to schools where we know the schools have a good academic history, and we know when we get a kid that they've been taught pretty well and that they can come in, and if they go to class and do all the things they need to do as far as turning in assignments on time and study, home tutoring, and all those kind of things, that they can be successful students at Wake Forest. And then the problem we've got, of course, is we can have a pretty good football team and not have much to show for it, because when you're playing the teams that we play, when you're playing Florida State and Clemson and Notre Dame and people like we play, you're playing some of the best football teams in the country every week. And you mentioned Tyler Hayworth. We were talking about that kid. He's a freshman for us right now, and our offensive line's a little in flux. I think we've got 4 or 5 older kids that are going to be good players for us up front, but we don't have much depth there, and we thought first couple practices, Tyler probably had as good a practices as any offensive lineman we had. Now, it's early, we're still in helmets and whatnot, but for a kid to come in like he has and right away pick up the offense and kind of feel like, he's part of it, that was pretty impressive to us.
Jim, if you address your schedule a little bit, maybe just certain obstacles you'll encounter along the way, maybe some interesting teams on it.
Well, one of the things that's a problem for Wake Forest is we can't buy wins. So some schools that have big budgets can go kind of shop around and find teams that have been down for a while and kind of bring them in and give them a big payday and get 3 or 4 wins before they get into their conference schedule. And we're not able to do that at Wake Forest. We have to play home and home with teams. So we're playing home and home, like with Notre Dame, where we were home and home. They were at our place last year. We've been home and home with Ole Miss, with Nebraska, with Stanford. We're home and home for about the next 8 years with Vanderbilt, who's kind of had a resurgence. They're playing really good football and got in a bowl game last year. So, we're playing a really tough non-conference schedule. And then you get into the ACC, and I think other than having a national champion, which has been a problem for us, we haven't had, a team. I think back when we took Miami and Florida State and Virginia Tech into the ACC, we kind of felt like, especially Miami and Florida State, would be national contenders every year, and that hasn't proven to be the case. It might be this year because Florida State's picked really high. I think one publication actually picked them to maybe win it this year, but I think from top to bottom, the ACC's a rugged conference. When you're playing Florida State, Miami, and Virginia Tech, and Clemson, and people like that, and so many other great football programs, Virginia and Boston College, and Georgia Tech, and you just go through it. There's just so many good football teams in this league, and then when you play two or three, real for real BCS schools outside of the conference, it makes it tough for a school like Wake Forest to have to go out every Saturday because if you don't bring your best, you're not going to win. You got to bring it in this league every Saturday if you're going to get a win.
We're previewing teams around college football in 2012. Wake Forest head coach Jim Grobe joining us here with Demon Deacons out of the ACC, 5-3 in conference play last year, and part of that was not turning the football over. Only 12 turnovers for your team last year, Coach, and Tanner Price, your experienced quarterback, hasn't been intercepted in 173 attempts. Talk about him and having how much that helps you sleep at night to have a guy with experience there.
Well, the nice thing about Tanner is he's willing to get rid of the football and throw an incomplete pass. He's okay throwing it out of bounds. He's okay throwing it in the dirt. If it's not there, he's been good about not taking sacks, and he doesn't try to force many throws. He really only had a couple bad games last year, Virginia Tech and North Carolina, where he had a handful of interceptions. And other than that, the rest of the games, he took great care of the football. And, of course, that gives you a chance to win. One of our issues at Wake Forest has been that, I think in the past 11 years that I've been at Wake Forest, we've had about 60 games go to the last possession. And that's kind of the way we're going to be. We're not a football program that has the kind of depth and the kind of talent that we're going to go waltz through a bunch of football teams. We're going to be competitive and get you in the fourth quarter and have a shot. And last year, we went right to the wire with a bunch of football teams last year, teams that we had great opportunity. We missed a field goal late that had a chance to beat Clemson and play for the ACC championship. We lost a late game to Mississippi State in the bowl game. We lost late to Syracuse in the opener, had again missed a field goal there and an extra point, and had a chance to beat Syracuse, and had a great chance against Notre Dame going in, and missed a block and fumbled the ball on the 8 going in to go overtime with Notre Dame. So, we felt like getting back to a bowl for Wake Forest was a good thing last year, but we had 4 games that were right there that we could have had that would have made it a great year instead of another bowl season for us. And Tanner Price is a big part of that. And coming back, Tanner's still just going to be a junior. And, with him, you feel like you got a kid that's got the ability to get the ball to the right people, but at the same time, he's a very unselfish guy, and he's not going to, intentionally come out of a game with 3 or 4 picks just to have good total stats.
You addressed some of the close losses and the way the season ended last year. And you hear coaches say, we have to learn how to win football games, or our players have to learn how to win football games. Is that something that a coaching staff can help with, or is that something they just have to learn on their own?
Well, I think experience helps. There's no question. I think, some of our best football teams have had good leadership with the juniors and seniors, and typically, if you've lost some close games, if you've been a part of the program either as a red shirt or a true freshman, and you kind of go through those first 2 or 3 years, freshman, sophomore years, you see the ups and downs, and you see how you win and how you lose and those kind of things. And those experiences are, I think, invaluable. And so if you get some guys that have a little bit of experience in their junior and senior year, they realize that when you get down to the end of a football game, it's really players. Now, coaches can screw it up. We've done that. I don't ever just put the blame on players because, we've done some dumb things as coaches. We've made some dumb decisions at times. But I think it's basically up to players to realize that at the end of games, when you're in close football games, and we're going to be in them, that's just the way we are. We're not going to run away from many people, so we're going to have to make plays late. But I think when players realize that at the end of games, you got to make plays if you're going to win. You can't stand around, with your hands in your pockets wishing and hoping it's going to happen. You got to go out and somebody's got to step up and if you're on defense on the last series, somebody's got to get a pick or cause a fumble or stop somebody on fourth down. And offensively, if you got to go down and get a field goal or go down and get a touchdown, you got to throw and catch and run the football and take care of it and do all those kind of things if you're going to win. And if you don't have somebody make plays, in close games, you're not going to win. And that's what kids with a little bit more experience realize.
Last thing with you, Coach, we're visiting with Wake Forest head coach Jim Grobe. Experience at quarterback. You are going to have to play some young players, as you've alluded to. But you do have a very good back two lines on defense. Is this as talented a Wake Forest team as you've had in a number of years, you think?
Well, what I like defensively is we've been down the past 2 or 3 years a little bit defensively, mainly because of depth, and also, we just didn't have as good a foot speed as we had on our better defensive football teams. We've had kids that could get to the football pretty good. And of course, when you're playing the schedule, we play a lot of the teams we play have really good team speed. And, we're still not a very big team. We're a pretty undersized football team. But I think, it's got to feel like we might be back to being a pretty good defensive football team again. A lot of young guys, a lot of sophomores and juniors, but kids that can really move it around and get to the football and pretty aggressive. And I like that. I think we've got, because we've got such good team speed defensively, I think we're going to go back to being better on special teams, and that really hurt us last year. We didn't do a very good job on special teams at times. And, so offensively we've got more holes to fill, but I think most coaches feel like if you play pretty good defense and be solid in your special teams and maybe have, each game have a kind of a big play in special teams and win the turnover battle, you got a chance to win games.
Is your Australian rules kicker going to help that special teams too?
He looked awful good last night. Our kid that started for us last year, Alex Wolfick's in a battle right now. The team calls. We've got two Alexes, Alex Wolfick and Alex Kennels, the Australian kid, and so they call him Mate because we got two Alexes on the team. But last night Mate was by himself. Alex Wolfick had pulled a groin in practice Monday night, and so he didn't get to punt. And he hit 2 or 3 60 plus, and so I think that if we can get him to be more consistent, we had to teach him how to put a uniform on and how to catch a snap and all those kind of things. But he's got the big time leg, and we're going to let the two kids compete. But that could really help our net punting if we could get a guy that could give us a little bit more pop, and maybe Alex Wolfick can do that. I think his leg strength's improved too, but certainly that's going to be a big key for us this year.
Wake Forest taking on one SEC team to close out the year on November 24th, hosting Vanderbilt. They'll start the season September 1st, hosting Liberty. Coach, really appreciate it. Always nice to visit with you. Good luck this season. We appreciate your time.
I enjoyed it, guys. Thanks for putting the Deeks on.
All right, you're welcome. That is Jim Grobe, Wake Forest head football coach.